Welcome back to Fear and Beer, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. Join us as we venture year-round into the fog.
Make sure you give us a like and a follow on your podcast platform of choice. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube page where we upload every episode in its video format, and maybe a few other surprises as well.
Make sure you're following us on social media to keep up to date with our newest haunted content.
I'm Nick.
I'm Seamus.
I'm Jamie.
Guess what time it is? That's right, our guess map. Finally, we've had this thing on the back burner for a while, and with the holiday season, and I had a bunch of other crap going on. I'm currently fighting a cold right now, too, so I'm not feeling too hot. So pardon me if you hear a couple coughs or sneezes or whatever, but I figured I can't push this thing off one more. Gotta do it for the people. I know they're waiting for this one. We pushed it last week, and I just can't do it again. I can't push it another week. I got to get this thing out there. Plus, it's killing me sitting on this guest map since December. I've wanted to get this thing out there, but I didn't want to do it without a proper episode behind it to give you meaning behind all of these crazy and wacky picks that we got going on from the Fear and Beer side of things. But as you can see, if you are watching on YouTube, it is myself and Jamie tonight going over this little guest map. Seamus is celebrating a birthday tonight. Not his, but his daughter. So happy birthday, Harper. I hope you brought her to Freddy Fazbear's. Yeah, so we are going over our HHN35 guest map. Now, if you aren't familiar, maybe this is your first time with us for the guest map. This is usually one of our first episodes of the year, typically in that January period. We try to do these before there's any speculation or rumors because, as stated in the name of this map, it is guesses. These are guesses from us, logical or illogical, however you want to take it. But we've gotten pretty good at these things. I like to do these before rumors because I like to kind of imagine what the event would be. I try to pretend like I'm a creative director or a person in charge that would be like, what would make sense based off of, how the year went in releases. Is it an anniversary year, which it is this year? I look at past, what is the word I'm looking for? Past patterns, trends, yes, something like that. Sorry, like I said, my brain is firing at a solid 25% right now because it's just, it's all kinds of messed up
Nick
right now.
Nick and I have both been sick, unfortunately, but we are here, so don't fear.
Yeah. But I like to look at past trends, what might come based off of, say we've like a Slaughter Cinema last year. We kind of looked at that a couple of years ago when we pulled that. We looked at Major Suites as a scare zone a couple of years ago, and we're like, what? I think next year that might be a house, and it turned out to be right. So yeah, that's what we kind of like to do with these guest maps. So these are not speculation. These are not rumors. Now, at this point, maybe some of these have been rumored or speculated upon, but like I said, we made this map before Christmas time, and we've just kind of been waiting to do that. So I think it'll be fun real quick. We'll go through our past two guest maps, because I do have those pulled up, and see how right or wrong we were. We usually do these on way too early predictions and stuff like that, but our guest maps, just to kind of put it into perspective, our 33 map was a lot more right than our 34 map. And I gave us a lot of half credits because for 33, we guessed Slaughter Cinema Part 2, which it ended up coming to that year. We had Friday the 13th on there, which it came the following year. We
were just a little behind. It's okay.
On our 33 map, we had 3 IPs. That came at 34. At 33, we had Friday the 13th, we had Five Nights at Freddy's, and we had Terrifier. All of which came at 34. We were 1 year early on all that stuff. We also threw on there Holidays in Hell, which never ended up coming to fruition. We put Sweet Revenge on there. That actually happened. We also put Wizard of Oz, a Greek mythology original, and Silent Hill. We put that there on 33. Those were all wrong, of course. And we had a Universal Monsters House, Frankenstein, and Creatures of the Black Lagoon, which I gave ourselves half credit for because we did get Universal Monsters, and we got a sort of spin-off of a Frankenstein, As far as 34, like I said, we got a lot more wrong, but I enjoyed putting these together. We put a Nightingale's Blood Steel House, which was like a Japanese like Nightingale's Take, I think. We had Last of Us Part 2. We had a Scary Tales iteration. We had The Conjuring, all 4 of those wrong. We had Terrifier, which came to fruition. I wanted to put it back on there 1 year again. We had a Megan house, a Mardi Gras Murders house, which we just picked the wrong Slaughter Cinema 2 portion. We had a Hell's High Prom Night house, which never came. We had a Western original, which kind of, in turn, turned into Hatchet and Chains. We went with a Greek mythos original again, so that won't be on this year's because that's 2 years in a row for the Greek mythology house, which means it'll probably happen at 35, but since we're not putting it there, that's what it is. And we have a 7 house, 7 Deadly Sins. These were all, just like I said in the post on these maps, these are not rumors or speculation. These are realistic or at least semi-realistic guesses or wants on our behalf. So let me take a swig of this. I got no beer tonight.
No beer for Nick. But I actually do have a drink tonight.
I am drinking Tropical Punch Body Armor. So, Jamie, why don't you take it away for a second while I try and get my breath back?
Yeah, so instead of my classic pineapple high noon, I actually have a nice little Bloody Mary tonight. I know it's quite the switch up from my usual drinks, but we had used Bloody Marys for an episode that we did for the Spookeasy, which you should go check out. And I was like, you know what? It sounds pretty good. I've been getting over a cold too, so I was like, I think tomato juice and maybe a little vodka sounds better than a seltzer. So I just wanted something different. But yeah, a classic little Bloody Mary, a little hot sauce, olive juice. I love olives, pepper, tahini, nothing crazy. But fits the occasion in my little HHN cup with my zombie hand straw that I got from 7-Eleven a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. That is one of the drinks that we used for one of the Spookeasy videos. If you have not watched already, our last week, like I said, we missed our episode last week, so I just supplemented that with our Spookeasy episode on Sinners. So give that a watch, a listen if you haven't. I know our movie-related ones kind of do a little bit less because maybe some people haven't seen those movies yet, but it's a good excuse to go catch that. We should have our other Spookeasy video out possibly on Sunday, and that is going to be on weapons. That is with Jamie and Seamus taking over for the Spookeasy that week. So another fun one, another fun movie. We're kind of doing the best of 2025 horror for the month of January, which once we get in a better routine of recording, we'll have these announced more ahead of time. But yeah, so Jamie, do you want to start us out on this guess map for 35? We have 10 houses on here.
I sure can.
And if you want to follow along in picture format, I'm sure by the time you're listening to this, the image will be on Instagram. But it probably 10 a.m. or so, 9:30 to 10 a.m. I'll put this out tomorrow or today, Friday morning. So you can kind of follow along with us if you do so, please.
So I assume we're going in order from A, B, C, D, yes? Going that way around the map? Okay, so Nick is usually better than I am about knowing which sound stages these are, so I'm just going to go from locations, is which I usually go by.
Yeah, we'll just go, because I didn't put, they're on locations, but in this capacity that I'm in right now, I would have no idea what to call it.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure. So when this is posted, you guys will see it, so you'll be able to match it up. So first up on the list, we got a pretty big hitter, which Nick, okay, let me start off by saying Nick is usually the mastermind behind these guess maps, and he usually has really good guesses. He thinks pretty in-depth about them, a lot more than I do. When I look for trends and stuff like that, it's usually stuff that's happened at HHN in the past in different years. But first up on the list, starting at the front of the park, we have A Nightmare on Elm Street and our first IP on the map, which, I mean, you don't really have to twist my arm on that one. I've been saying we need Freddy back for years.
Yeah. I figured we'd have to swing for the fences. We've always talked about having classic horror represented. This hasn't been there in a while. The last time we saw Freddy was the last time we also, besides last year, saw Jason in the Freddy vs. Jason house at 2015. So it's been technically 10 event years, 11 if you kind of count the COVID year. Other than that, the time before that was I think, 2007 when you had the Dreamwalkers house. So I think it's, it feels right / I kind of just want to will this into existence. I'm kind of torn. I don't necessarily think it's coming, but I do want to fill that classic horror slot. Now, I know there's been other rumors about maybe another property, which I think maybe next week we'll kind of do a rumor roundup episode because we've been avoiding all these rumors for a while. There is a classic horror that is now being rumored, and I didn't want to, switch it based off rumors because, like I've said, this is kind of our map.
Yeah.
So if I had to pick, I would just go Nightmare. We never thought we would see Jason again, and he was back last year. So clearly, rights issues can be worked out and resolved. So I don't think it's 100% off of the table.
I don't think so either, really. I mean, we have had him in the past, and I mean, I feel like there's always going to be, and I mean, anything like you said with those classic kind of horrors, if you have the classic slashers, Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, Mikey, it's going to bring a draw regardless. And since it has been so long since we've seen Freddy or Nightmare on Elm Street in general, I do think it would be really fun, especially for an anniversary year. I would be curious, and like you preface saying, this is all just our speculations and guesses because we like it and we think it's fun. But it would be fun to see what they would pick to do, if it would kind of be a compilation of all the Nightmare on Elm Streets because it is an anniversary year, or maybe do kind of their own iteration on one of the films like they did back in 2007, I think you'd said.
Yeah. I would do Frederick's universe.
You know what?
Just
That
like
works for
Jason
me
universe.
too.
No, I would do a compilation. I would just kind of, pick and choose some of the best hits of the series. The Johnny Depp blood scene getting pulled into the bed. The Welcome to Primetime bitch with the Freddy holding the TV. I'd kind of go back and forth in his whole catalog and pick what my favorites are, and I would put that obviously over in one of the sound stages to give it some space.
And see, it would be cool too if they did it like how they did the Jason universe, because I feel like with that, even though I'm not really as familiar with the Friday the 13th movies, I feel like if you aren't that familiar with Nightmare on Elm Street, there is still a lot of like those classic kills from those movies that that just you've seen floating around. I feel like with Jason, you do have some, but I feel like they're not as like notable for me. And I could just be saying that because I haven't really seen the movies like that. But I don't know. I feel like it's more recognizable. In the Jason Universe house, I feel like gives a lot of hacking and slashing and machetes, and you could do a lot more with Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting to kind of compare the contrasts of the two. I think Jason's got a fun setting with the whole Camp Crystal Lake. Nightmare on Elm Street's mostly kind of in houses and stuff like that. Like, there's not that popular of a setting other than like literally Elm Street. But obviously, you get like the boiler room and all that stuff. But it's not as the setting. I don't think is as iconic as Camp Crystal Lake.
I can agree with
it's
you
kind
on
of
that.
a different area.
Mhm.
But I do think, maybe it doesn't come this year. Maybe it comes next year because it seems like on these big swing IP guesses for us, we're a year before. So we shall see. But I don't think Nightmare on Elm Street is too far off from returning to Halloween Horror Nights. I don't know what would need to happen, but I'm sure everybody in charge is kind of chomping at the bits to get their hands on Freddy again because, like what you talked about, Michael, Jason, and Leatherface have all been represented pretty recently. And one of those being Jason that we got last year is something that a lot of people thought would just not be an option anytime soon. And obviously that got worked out in one way, shape, or another. But yeah, you also have those other sub classics like Chucky, who's been there pretty relatively frequent. So it's
They love the Chuck.
yeah, I just don't count out any of these classics 100%. We had, even though it wasn't the original like Exorcist, we had the Exorcist Believer a couple years ago. So like that classic horror is a staple at HHN, and I would be very surprised if there was a year without any quote unquote classic horror icon of sorts. You might have to start going down that list a little bit further to zhuzh it up so that way it's not the same. Every 3 years you get a Michael, a Leatherface, and then a Jason. It just rotates. You're going to have to branch into these other properties at some point, and it seems like we're almost at that tipping point because I think it's too soon to do Michael or Leatherface again. We're obviously not going to do Jason back-to-back years. Your options for classic horror, I don't want to say are limited, but you could pick from maybe 5 or 6 different things. Nightmare, Candyman, Hellraiser, The Thing, something in that wheelhouse where it's like, a classic horror. And I just went with Nightmare on Elm Street for this one because it feels right and I want it to happen.
I like it. We got to speak it into existence because, like you said, if we don't say it, it
Exactly.
probably would come. Or if we don't put it on here, it would happen. So,
Yeah, exactly. All right, next up, location B. That is where I just put Body Collectors. Now, Body Collectors is a pretty tried and true HHN original. I think for an anniversary year, it would make sense to bring this back, being that they first came out in, I'm trying to look through my notes here, HHN 15, 2005 was the very first year, so 15. You had them at HHN 25, so it seems like every 10 years.
Yeah.
So maybe for 35, they return.
I'm really hoping, because as some of you may know, 2005 was my first year that I attended the event, and I was too big of a scaredy cat, as I've said before, to go in Body Collectors because the movies or little clips they were playing on the outside of the house was insane, and I was terrified as a 10-year-old kid, so it would be nice to be able to do that now.
Yeah, they also were at the 2008 event. So it's 3 times they've had a house.
Yes.
I think 2008 they also had a scare zone that went alongside the house. But the first one, if you aren't familiar, was just called Body Collectors. That was at the Tales of Terror. And I do have the rundowns of the house, so I'll just kind of run through those real quickly. So let's see. They described this one, and I didn't get to go see this one. So it's blood and gore galore in this industrial factory where processing human body parts is the business, and business appears to be good. Deep in the recesses of blood-soaked Gorewood Forest, a storage facility has been built to warehouse, store, and process what remains of the unfortunate victims of the Terror Throne rituals. Drained of blood, withered and pale, the corpses are piled, prepared, and rendered by the collectors. Now, this house did go on. This did win House of the Year that year, and the sequel came 3 years later at the HHN 18 event, which was the Reflections of Fear. This one was actually a prequel. So this showed how the Body Collectors committed the Jack the Ripper murders in Victorian London, and it was sort of loosely based off of Sweeney Todd. Yeah, and this is when they started being called. It's fun when they do these prequels and set them in sort of real life scenarios. Taking the whole Jack the Ripper situation, putting them in a completely different environment is a real, I think, fun idea. But they used the mass murders and plagues to cover up their ghoulish activities. The collectors are constantly searching for the new specimen to add to their macabre museum. And of course, like I said, this was paired with a scare zone called Streets of Blood. And this was where an ancient group known simply as the Body Collectors has been devoted to the collection of sacrificing bodies for a millennia. And then the next time we saw them was at 25. This was Body Collectors Recollections. Now, this is one that I believe I went to. This was my first event, and I don't remember it to its full extent. But they have returned. The Body Collectors have returned, descending upon Shady Brook Asylum. So this is where we sort of smashed 2 HHN original ideas and concepts together in one, which I thought was a very smart move. But they descended upon Shady Brook Asylum to collect the human parts they require. Screams echo the hallways as a blizzard rages outside while sharpened blades swirl inside. They have returned. The Body Collectors are on the hunt for the human parts so they desperately need. Emerging from the darkness on a cold winter night, they descend upon the unknowing inhabitants of Shady Brook Asylum. So, I think it makes sense. They were here obviously at 08, but 2005, 2015, right? Yeah, 2000.
No, it would be 25. They would have been here.
2005.
Well, if you add it up in Horror Nights terms, how they do the years.
Yeah. So more year events. So they were at
Yes.
HHN 15, they were at HHN 25, and we are upon
35.
HHN
Yeah.
35 now. So every sort of 10 event years, you can maybe tie that into their lore and story. So
Did you get
up
to do
until
it
I
at
was-
15? At 25?
2015. Yeah,
2015.
I believe I did. I can't remember 100% which houses I did. And, that was my first event year. I only went one night. So I know I went through some originals, but back then I didn't know what they were. So I can't remember.
For a fact, I didn't go that year either because I had some stuff going on. But I'm telling you, I need that redemption year. I need Body Collectors to come here, and especially because I think the gentleman and all the characters are really cool. And from what I do remember, since I did see it in 2005 at 15, but did not go into it, I feel like it was very kind of industrial House 1,000 Corpses, kind of like the intro video of that movie when you kind of see them like dissecting the body parts and tearing people apart and stuff like that. I feel like that's what it reminded me of. That's why it really creeped me out. So
Yeah.
it would definitely be very bloody and gory, which we all enjoy. So
Yeah.
be fun to
And
see
just
them come back.
being an anniversary year, you kind of look through stuff and you're like, all right, what are the popular kind of, I don't want to say sagas, but recently frequented hits of Halloween Horror Nights. Obviously, you have like these big hits like Graveyard Games or I don't want to, well, Scarecrow had a scare zone, but like you have some of these one-offs, Darkest Deal, where it was just a one-off and it was really good. I think there's chances for sequels of one-offs, but I think you need to devote a slot on a anniversary year to something that has had multiple iterations, kind of like when we had at 30 the Welcome to Scary or the what was the Boris Schuster
Case Files?
Case Files on Earth. You have to have something that kind of tips the cap towards HHNs of the past, kind of replace some of the biggest hits. And it's been a while since we saw Body Collectors, and I think it's time to kind of reintroduce them to possibly a whole bunch of new people, because like I said, it's been 10 event years, 11 years in total since we last saw them. There's been a huge influx of new guests and new frequent guests that probably haven't seen them at all. So I think it's time to kind of introduce them to the gentleman.
It would be very fun. And
I'd like to soak them in a little bit more because I didn't get to appreciate it at its fullest capabilities.
Yeah.
So.
And I was just going to say, nope, sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to say, any other thoughts for Body Collectors?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm glad you mentioned. I really do, like you said, the Welcome to Carrie and Case Files. I like those compilation houses because it gives you a little bit of everything from years past, and it is nice to reminisce on it. And you could even do with Body Collectors, too. I know you'd mentioned the Shady Brook Asylum. It'd be really fun if they even did like a Body Collectors Psychoscarapy crossover kind of thing to bring back 2 of those originals that we've had in the past. Yeah.
You could have them go to Hellblock Horror, Hellgate Prison or something like that.
You could.
Yeah. Alrighty. You want to tackle that next one? That's the location C for us.
Location C, we are heading on up to what looks like Jimmy Fallon area, possibly on our little map here. I could be wrong, but this is going to be, which I think this might be our most accurate one so far. But again,
I feel pretty confident about this one.
Yes, I was going to say, then again, just guesses, but we have Stranger Things 5, which I mean...
Surprise, surprise.
Pretty much a shoo-in, honestly, to happen. And if it doesn't, I think the fans would be very disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, all signs point to it, right? We had Stranger Things 1 as a house. We had Stranger Things 2 and 3 as a house. We had Stranger Things 4 as a house. Why would you stop?
Why would you not? Yeah, you need to complete the saga.
You gotta complete it. And because it's an anniversary year, that's a big deal. I would be extremely surprised if they, 1, omitted Stranger Things 5 and just never did it, or 2, did it at 36. That feels too far away.
I think it would be too. And I think especially
it's almost
with
2 years removed at that point.
Yeah, and with the show just ending and everything like that, I feel like it would just be, the popularity would be insane. I feel like it would be, we thought Freddy friggin' Fazbear was popular last year. I feel like the Stranger Things house would be very, very long. A lot of people, that would kind of be their completion for the love that they have for the show.
I'm a little opposite of you on that thought.
Oh, you think so?
I think Stranger Things 5 would still be a massive hit, but I think Five Nights at Freddy's was so popular because it was like the first time it was ever there.
That's true too.
No, I think people that are huge Stranger Things fans have probably known that it's had a house here and come to one of the iterations at some point. Now, I think this would still be one of the biggest and most anticipated houses, and wait times would dictate that once we got there. But because Five Nights at Freddy's has kind of been asked for so long, and because it finally actually happened, I think that was a bigger deal. I think that kind of moved the needle a little bit more than what the 4th version of Stranger Things in a house would be.
That's fair, honestly. I feel like, I mean, me including myself, it would just be, that'll be our closure for the show for all the times we've had it at Horror Nights, and it'll be a nice send off if we do get it.
Yeah, I think you have to, right?
Yeah.
I can't see a I can't see us at HHN35 without a Stranger Things.
No.
Whether I want it or not, and I love Stranger Things, but I could probably do without it. But, maybe some redemption, because Stranger Things, the 4 house it had its faults. We had some of those iconic moments, but there was some aspects of the house that maybe weren't executed as properly as we wanted it to be.
Mhm.
What are some spots in Stranger Things 5 that you would like to see in the house?
I absolutely, when we were watching it together, I really like when they go, kind of when Max takes Holly back in her mind and they go in the playground and she like smashes through the merry-go-round and it takes her in the bed and she like crawls out in the upside down into the room. I thought that scene was really, really cool. Kind of like whenever they go through the upside down and then back into the real world, it's cool looking, but I really like those. I feel like, and it's tough too, because I think those scenes a lot of people weren't a little too excited about when we had it in the Stranger Things 4 house, but I definitely think we would get the big arid desert scenes with that big monster as well, and I would hope that they would do more structural work and not so much the curtains like we saw when we were going through the sand in Stranger Things 4 in that room. And looking
Yeah.
back at it now, it's like, would you just do it all in the upside down since that's where the majority of the show took place? Or because
I had a couple
go ahead.
locations, but I'm not sure how well. I was thinking we got to do maybe one section in the Wheeler house when the Demogorgons are attacking.
I was just gonna say, when they attack Mrs. Wheeler, we definitely have to have that kitchen scene in there. I think that's a definite.
Yep. Something in the Creel house, because we didn't. I don't think we. No, we did go in the Creel house very briefly as like a hallway segment. I think last time, where there was like a young Henry Creel popped out with like the Black Widow on his hand.
Yes, I think so too.
But maybe something in the Creel house. Something in the caves, maybe.
Yeah.
With like Henry kind of chasing us down, or that scene with Henry as a kid, flashback where the the box opens and he gets
Underground in the
I guess,
Yep.
infected with whatever that is. The upside down, I think it was like the military base or something. Is that where they had Hopper and 11 and the big helicopter explosion?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that was their military base in the upside down.
In the upside down, yes.
Yeah, I do have to rewatch this season because
I was just gonna say, I feel like we just watched it, and I'm like, I gotta rewatch it again already.
I was like, it's like fucking 15 hours.
They're just so long.
It's a lot.
I know.
There's a lot. And then obviously the final showdown, I think you have to have some scenes inside the Mind Flayer, because that's where 11 and Vecna were kind of battling it out for that huge climactic 3-minute fight.
Yeah. And I feel like they're really good about like texturizing and designing that kind of stuff. So I feel like the inside of the Mind Flayer, that kind of shredded skin, gooey, sticky stuff, and all the kids being cloaked up inside Vecna's thing with the big long tube
and
tentacle thing in their mouth.
Yeah, and you have to have a Derek.
Derek's got to be in the house.
Pops out and says, "Suck my fat one."
Delightful Derek.
Now, there's going to be a kid in there that has the glasses in the rainbow sweater that just jumps out and yells, "Suck my fat one."
Definitely.
That's all I need. Yep. Alrighty. So for our next one,
I was going to say one more thing.
What?
Probably it would be cool if they had the squawk there, like the radio station, that kind of thing. If you walk through there, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
That could be like a food booth or something.
Oh, there you go.
The next one, it's something we've actually talked about a lot. This was on our way too early predictions back in November, whenever we did that episode right after HHN34 wrapped up. And it was the focus of our Spookeasy video that dropped last week, and that is Sinners. This is the hot ticket item of 2025 horror. It just came out today that it is setting the record for most Oscar nominations of all time at 16. I have to look back. I should have looked back to find this stat before, but I think we'd be hard-pressed to find a Oscar-winning or Oscar-nominated movie that was represented at HHN. Nothing is jumping out at the point, but I'd have to... I just know horror isn't really as appreciated in Oscars And I don't expect it to win many, unfortunately.
I was going to say something, but it sounds stupid now thinking about it. Never mind.
What?
Was The
What
Shining
one?
nominated for an Oscar?
Oh, I'd have to go back and check. I have no idea.
That's the
on
only
that.
one I could maybe
don't-
think of.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't have that kind of knowledge on me right now, but
No,
it
it's
would
okay.
be, I'm sure, one of the few. If there
Mhm.
are some, I am willing to bet there's not a lot of them, because
No.
I don't think Chucky has ever been nominated for an Oscar or any Friday the 13th or anything like that. So it would be one of the few, if not the only one. But it kind of makes sense. You could reuse some props from Darkest Deal. I know it's a similar kind of idea. It's a little bit trickier to pull off as a house, I think, because from my perspective, like when I'm trying to think of how this house would work, it really is set in one location. Like that ending battle is kind of when all the shit goes haywire in the juke joint. But I do think there's some possibilities there to play with. As far as like why this one, I do think on the anniversary years, or at least the past couple years, we've had what I deem as like the hot new film or property, like a first time thing. Last year we had Five Nights at Freddy's and Terrifier. That was the first time those were there. At 33, we had A Quiet Place. That was like a very new, random kind of racking our brain of how this will work at a HHN event property. At 32, we had The Last of Us. I know it wasn't necessarily based off of the TV series, but it was very popular because of the TV series at the time. So for the last 3 years, we've had a kind of new horror that we're almost like, can it work? Like that's a discussion we have to have. Then I think this kind of fits in that slot as well. But what about you? What are your thoughts on Sinners? Because I know you watched it a couple times while I was rewatching it.
The more times I've watched it, the more time, or the
You
more
are muted, I think.
Better
Yeah.
now?
Oh, and there.
Better
No,
now?
I still can't hear you. Oh,
No?
this is bizarre. Alrighty. So we will pick this up in just a
Good.
second. Oh, hey, here you are. Oh, she's
Good,
back.
good.
All right, perfect. Yep.
It's weird on my, sorry guys, on my little thing, my mute button is like invisible, so I can't tell if it's mute or not, or if it clicks on and off.
They
So, and
don't
my
care.
chair squeaks around. Okay, I was gonna say my chair squeaks around, so I didn't want no one hearing it.
Thoughts
But
on Sinners? They don't care.
thoughts
about
on
that.
Sinners, yes. I did enjoy Sinners the more I had watched it at home versus in the theater experience. I feel like it's hard for me to really get into a movie watching it at the theater because I get distracted easily. But as much as I think it would work at Horror Nights, like you said, I feel like it would be kind of difficult just because of the settings that it does have. And my biggest thing is that, like you said, it is just so similar, I feel like, to Darkest Deal. And that sense is that would it be too similar and too close to have them kind of, not really back to back, but in that short amount of years. And I think it could be a really cool set design. I do enjoy vampires. I mean, the juke joint would be just such a cool scene, the whole dance hall scene and everything. But I don't know if it would work. I don't know if it's too big of a film to bring to Horror Nights. I don't know if that sounds weird, but I don't know about this one.
Yeah, I mean, we've sort of had these high concept
Yeah.
IPs, not often, but I think the last one might have been Us, where it was like, can it work? Like it's just
I
like
did
this,
forget
it's this
about
new
Us.
kind of, it's a new horror. It's not necessarily classic like those, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw, stuff like that. It's a one-off essentially. It's brand new, but I also think because it came out so late ago, it was either March or May. I forget, but it was one of the M months. But now it's kind of back in that popular zeitgeist because of all the Oscar buzz, and rightfully so. So I'm curious. I think it would be an interesting play to have here. I would like to see it. I'd like to see how they pull it off. I really liked the movie. I think it was probably one of, if not top 3 best vampire movies that I've seen in my day. I don't know. I really enjoy it. The more I watched it, the more I find little nuances in there that I really enjoy. So if you want to learn more about Sinners or hear us talk more about Sinners, you can check out our Spookeasy video. And putting it on here allowed me to selflessly plug our own page some more. But yeah, so that's what I think for Sinners. Do you have any other final thoughts on Sinners?
I think we got it.
All right, so why don't you take us along to the next one?
We are going to head on over to letter E on our guest map, which is going to be Ozzy, Back to the Beginning. And this looks like it is a music-based house from the one and only Ozzy Osbourne. Now, it's been a while since I feel like was the last house The Weeknd, I assume, was our last music kind of house?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say so.
So it's been The Weeknd, so it's been a little bit. And I mean, obviously, when you think of Ozzy, the Prince of Darkness, he could go hand in hand with Horror Nights. I feel like he could do a lot with the house, that dark, gothic style, bats, gargoyles, all that kind of stuff. Could have worked for last year, honestly, with the theming that we had, but I mean, it could work for any time. We saw how well the Rob Zombie Scare Zone did with Hellbilly Deluxe. The Weeknd, love it or hate it, I think it ended up being a great house, even if you don't really consider The Weeknd and his music and imagery horror. I still think it worked. And we've seen Alice Cooper before in the past, so I mean, I think Ozzy would be a no-brainer as for having a house, especially since his unfortunate and recent passing. I feel like it'd be a nice tribute to him too.
Yeah, I think following the reception of the Bray Wyatt 6 kind of in memoriam style house. I don't know if that's something that's necessarily a trend or it just happened by, circumstances, but, Ozzy passed in July. I think the idea of memorializing one of these kind of horror adjacent icons, Bray Wyatt and Ozzy, is kind of a fitting touch to include. I think it was extremely successful. I think it was done very tastefully last year with the Wyatt 6. It was able to take Bray's visions and stories and translate them into a completely different medium for people to kind of soak in and enjoy. And I think we can do the same thing for Ozzy. And I took the name Back to the Beginning. I think that was either the name of the concert, his final concert, or what they're going to be naming the concert when it comes out in theaters, because they did film his final concert and it's going to get a theatrical release. I don't know the exact dates right now, but I know that is something to be coming from. But I think there's a lot you could do with this. This is going to be, if you did decide to do kind of like what they talked about, what that rumored Billie Eilish house was, where it was like the mind of Billie or the diary of Billie Eilish, you could do sort of like the mind of Ozzy, and you could do this very like gothic, like cathedral, almost religious style horror where it's just very, like you said, the Prince of Darkness. You could have the throne there. You could do the bats. You could do all this kinds of, cool devil imagery with Ozzy and his symbols. You could do with his, if you get access to his catalog, Crazy Train would obviously have to be in there. Mr. Crowley, it would be cool to make like actual images of a dark figure of, a quote unquote Mr. Crowley character. I know the song was based off of like some sort of like a real person. The name's escaping me now, like I said, but he was like
Aleister
a cult
Crowley?
leader. Aleister Crowley was like this like cult leader in London or something like that. And the whole song was pretty much warning people of him and not to partake in this and, what's wrong with you. But you could, instead of having it be a real just person, Mr. Crowley, you could like have this like tall giant. I'm thinking almost like the tall man from The Conjuring or something like that. Like that could be your Mr. Crowley, or like a Babadook style character.
Yeah,
that could be your
cool.
quote unquote Mr. Crowley. Bark at the Moon is a song that you could kind of pull imagery from and likeness. So I'd be very interested. And obviously you could have some ties of Black Sabbath in there as well. I'm not the biggest Ozzy fan. I'm not super into him. I enjoy what he is, but I'm not somebody that listens to Ozzy Osbourne. It's not that it's bad. I just never really got super into it. But I think this is fitting enough, and based off of his passing, that's why I decided to include this on our guest map this year, because I think it can work.
I do too. I like it.
Yeah. So any other thoughts on the Ozzy?
I mean, same kind of thing you said. I don't want to say I'm the biggest Ozzy fan in the world, because I really don't listen to him like that either, but I do enjoy his music for the songs that I do know. But yeah, I definitely think it could work as a house, and I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and it's a fun concept.
Yeah.
Like we said with the Weeknd, musical artists aren't It wouldn't be a one-off, completely random kind of thing to come to us. It's happened before in a few different instances, so it's not a complete shot in the dark, but it's something that I think could, slide in there if it makes, if they have the ideas to make it make sense.
Mm.
That would, I think, be fitting enough. And again, anniversary year, you're going to take some bigger swings than you normally would, I think, especially coming off the success of 34 and how hyped up that event was.
Mhm.
All right. So location F, this is where I have, and this is the one that I've kind of played around with a lot. This is where I'm putting the Wicked Growth 2. I had thought we put the Wicked Growth on past guest maps. I don't think we have because I reviewed those, but I do think it's time. We saw Pumpkin Lord come to us as a character at HHN 30. It's wild to think that it's been 5 event years now since we've seen the Wicked Growth 1. That seems like a long enough period of time to bring back a sequel. And also, it kind of serves, I mean, I don't know if you would classify this as an icon house, but Pumpkin Lord was sort of that icon of 31. So it would also fill that slot of a sort of icon-based house, which anniversary years we talked about, you kind of play some of the best hits. You introduce a couple new concepts, but to kind of cover our bases, we're pretty much using a lot of concepts that we've already seen before. So I just think it's time. The Little Boo still has a stronghold on the community, is still very heavy in the merch selections.
Mhm.
So I know that they know how popular that house could be. And I think they would probably include a Little Boo in there a little bit more. But I'd be curious because we've said this before multiple times that Pumpkin Lord needs redemption after the downgrade, I'd say, from 31, where he's just burping and farting on everybody. So it's a I want to see my guesses and predictions from like 3 years ago come to fruition, because I always stated, and like I said, if you're a new listener here, I'll kind of try to re-summarize my thoughts on that, was that, Wicked Growth 1 was kind of the birth of Pumpkin Lord, and he was sort of like a lord. I view Pumpkin Lord almost like Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy, where as he ages, he grows and has different formations and different names. You have, Baby Groot, Teenage Groot, you have Alpha Groot, whatever. You have Groot X, all kinds of different variations. But I want to see a like Pumpkin Lord, where he's like even bigger and more grotesque, and his head grows like a crown, and he's like the king of October and Halloween and all that stuff. So I want to see Wicked Growth 2 come back, and I want to see it in the form of like Pumpkin Lord, something like that, where he just gets bigger and bulkier and hopefully farts less. But what are your thoughts, Wicked Growth 2?
I mean, I don't necessarily need to see a Wicked Growth 2. I did like Wicked Growth for what it was. I do feel like it gave us that Halloween vibes and classic nostalgia that you look for in those kind of houses. And I do like the setting of it. And I like Pumpkin Lord itself. I wouldn't say I'm his number one fan, but I mean, I feel like a lot of people, like you said, I feel like he kind of was the icon for 31, so I feel like people are already familiar with him. Like you said, Little Boo has continuously been an icon since we saw him for the first time. And I think being an anniversary year, like you said, it would be a nice kind of redemption, and it has been a little bit since we've seen the first Wicked Growth house. So, I mean, it could happen, honestly. It doesn't sound too far-fetched to me, but I could either take it or leave it.
Yeah, I originally was flip-flopping between the Wicked Growth 2 and a Scarecrow, like another Scarecrow house. I ended up leaning towards Wicked Growth 2 just because I think we've seen Scarecrow a little bit more recently with the Cursed Soil Scare Zone. It was the house, obviously, from, I think, 27, and it is currently in Vegas. So I think if they're having it at other locations, and it was at Hollywood recently as well, I think we've seen that more recently and more often and in different variations versus Wicked Growth. We've seen it only really as the house, because the Scare Zone Horrors of Halloween didn't really have much to do with the Wicked Growth other than Pumpkin Lord and his pumpkin.
And I'm glad
So I think it's time.
I'm glad you brought up Scarecrow too, though, because that was my initial thought when we had talked about doing the guest map and stuff like that, that I could see it more likely happening, I guess, just because we do have it at Vegas and we did see it at Hollywood last year, and it's been a little bit since we've had it in Orlando. But I could also see the side of you saying that maybe, I don't want to say it's overdone and overused, but the little mystery boxes that maybe they're just hyping it up because it is in Vegas right now, but the mystery boxes that Universal dropped recently, I did get the little Scarecrow mystery guy. He was one of the guys that were one of the options that they had in there. So either they're just really hyping Scarecrow up right now because of the thing in Vegas, or maybe it's a hint.
Yeah, could be. Could
Mhm.
be. So why don't you tackle this next one? Because I know this is a property that you're pretty adamant about.
So I was it's exciting to talk about this one because I feel like this is one of the few times to where it isn't Nick guessing something and I came up with it. Well, I feel like we all kind of collectively agreed onto this one too.
And this was on our guest map from 33, which
And
we now
it's-
realized.
And that possibly could have been for me too, and I was wrong at that point. But I'm talking about none other than Silent Hill. We haven't seen Silent Hill since, according to my research before this episode, watching stuff on YouTube, I think 2006 was the last time that Silent Hill was there. No, not 2006. Maybe. We've seen it once or twice at the event. Either way, it has been a while since we've seen it. I unfortunately did not get to do the Silent House iteration that they had at Horror Nights. With the new movie coming out, as we're recording this literally tomorrow, some people have been seeing it tonight for the early screenings, Return to Silent Hill. Along with the trend of us seeing these video game houses in the past couple of years too, with The Last of Us and with Five Nights at Freddy's, I think that this could definitely work and be a good addition for an anniversary year with all the marketing and everything they've been doing for this new movie and it being based off the second game and kind of a sequel to the first and second movies. I had gone back and rewatched them and watched some of the walkthroughs that they had from the house in the previous years at Horror Nights. And I think now that the event has evolved so much, seeing how it was back then, it didn't look like a bad house by any means, but I feel like now there's just so much extra detail that could probably be added to it and just make it that much more immersive. And I mean, the scenes and the characters are just endless that you could have in this house. I feel like it's relevant enough. It's an anniversary year. It's a house that we've seen in Horror Nights before. I feel like there's really, I mean, maybe I'm just reaching here, but I feel like it's bound to happen, you know?
Yeah, it was
Mhm.
at 22, I believe.
22,
back in
I gotcha.
2012.
2012,
but yeah,
there
like
you go.
s-
I always get my years and the numbers for Horror Nights confused.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is funny that we are dropping this episode on the day that Silent Hill,
Yeah.
whatever Return to Silent Hill comes out.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, if you look at the past couple of years, we've had The Last of Us video game, we've had Five Nights at Freddy's video game. You know, I know it's based off a movie, but the series itself is very heavy in video games. Fallout, same thing, based off
Fallout,
of the TV
duh.
series,
Yep.
but video game. So we've definitely been dipping our toes in that video game well for a while at this point. So I think that was kind of one of the slots we wanted to fill too, something that is in that video game world. Now, I know there's at this point now rumors that are kind of hinting at another video game series. And again, that's something we will touch on in our rumor roundup episode in a week or so. But we're sticking with what we put on here originally before rumors came out, and that is Jamie's wish of Silent Hill. But I do think the characters are really cool. I'm not as familiar. I've seen the movie, just the movie. I don't think I saw the sequel of it.
Revelation.
Yeah, I didn't see that one, but because the whole series kind of is a weird connection, because this is like you had the first one, which was Silent Hill, and then the second one, Revelations, which is a sequel to the movie,
Mhm.
and now this new one is a reboot, but it's following
The second game.
second game.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of a weird series, but it's also the same director and writer from the first Silent Hill movie.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a weird, like, does it connect to the other two movies at all, or no, or I don't know. I'll have to see it to kind of answer those questions, because I haven't really followed it up too much, but it's a very eerie game. You know, the little pyramid head people are really cool. The little nurses are really fun characters that you could play with. I think we had costumes similar of those in the weekend house, so
Mhm.
maybe you could save some money there and pull some of those costumes out of storage and
Yeah, there you go.
give them a little bit of a reuse there. But yeah, I think Silent Hill fills that slot of relevant horror, also video game turned other media would fit right in with a lot of the other trends that we've seen recently at HHN.
And especially now, since there'll be 3, maybe I feel like there's another one I'm missing too, but let's just say there's 3 movies. I feel like they could do a compilation house of all the different Silent Hills too. Honestly, it sucks that this movie's called Return to Silent Hill because they could do the house named Return to Silent Hill, but then you'd be thinking it'd be based just off this movie. So, but yeah, all in all, I think I'm feeling pretty strong about Silent Hill, guys. I really need this one because I
Yeah.
don't really get too much right on the guest map. So
Yeah, I think the house was called Welcome to Silent Hill back when they
Yes.
had it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so interesting. We shall see. All right, location H. This is where I just put sci-fi original. No fun name. No, I'm kind of leaving the door open. You know, we nailed Western original, and if there's something sort of sci-fi adjacent, I can technically consider myself correct. But it's been a while. I feel like it's been a while since we've had a true sci-fi house. The last couple ones that I guess you could maybe consider in the sci-fi realm, I put Bugs Eaten Alive at 31. Like, not really, but it's kind of
I
like
can see that.
weird sci-fi-ish, but
Mhm.
not true. Like, and I'm talking aliens here. Like, I want an alien-based house. But we had Case Files at 30, which had at least one little alien kind of form thing. But again, it's more adjacent. I wouldn't classify it as like alien horror. We had Depths of Fear at 29, which I think might be the last authentic, close to sci-fi house that we had. But, you know, I want it to be something like, even if it's a goofy one, like Invasion, we've talked about for a while, Scare Zone from 27. That could get called up. If you want to do a Seek and Destroy house, kind of from the Scare Zone at 30, that would be fun. I would consider that sci-fi. We also had the Zyborgs from Slaughter Cinema 2, which that could consider sci-fi as well. So I just think it's time that we get a fun sci-fi house. This could be your jokey house because we haven't really talked about any jokey style houses as of yet, but this could kind of fill that as that light-hearted house. You know, we have that with Major Suites, which is kind of just goofy, fun time. Bugs was sort of that as well. I can't remember if we had sort of that jokey fun house. Oh, Dolls was kind of like that fun house, I guess, last year. But I think it's time. I don't think you're the biggest sci-fi fan. I think Seamus would be on board with this as well. But what are your thoughts? Do you think we get to see some sort of aliens or something like that?
You are correct. I'm not a huge sci-fi fan, unfortunately, but I do think that we could see something possibly like this. It has been a while since we've seen that kind of sci-fi alien-esque theme, other than I feel like that little stand that we had for Invasion the one year in the Scare Zone. Or I could be
Yeah,
wrong. Seek
the
and Destroy, I guess.
Eddie's
Yeah, lights, camera, action. I guess
action.
there's in there, and that's the thing with sci-fi. I feel like it's such a broad category because when I think of sci-fi, I think of like the Twilight Zone-esque kind of stuff, that kind of otherworldly, odd happenings, strange things, stuff like that, which I think that would be a cool take for a house too. And since you had mentioned Case Files, I definitely would consider that sci-fi as well. My thing is if we were to get a sci-fi original, I would really like to see, I've been thinking about it for a couple of years now. It would be really fun, but some sort of, and I know I mentioned the Twilight Zone, kind of like a black and white style house. And even if you did it like
a noir style.
yeah, and even if you did it like Alien style too, you could just add those pops of color for like different creatures or different thing like that, and even have it kind of like comic book texturized, I guess, kind of like how we had some of those panels in Case Files. But you could still kind of go with the schlocky, kind of goofy route too, and I think that could work as well, because I mean, you could be tuning into an interplanetary intermission of a show when you're walking through the house, and that's why it's black and white, but then the aliens take over. Maybe I'm thinking of Mars Attacks here. Am I thinking of a Mars Attacks house? I kind of explaining Mars
Possibly.
Attacks. Possibly.
What I kind of want is I want you to merge Killer Clowns from Outer Space with Invasion and just make it super goofy,
Yeah.
fun, have
Yeah.
a good time.
Yeah. And
Fun
see,
atmosphere.
and Killer Clowns would be kind of sci-fi too, so yeah, I like that. You could do a lot with that category. So I wouldn't mind, even though I'm not the biggest fan, I wouldn't mind a sci-fi themed or styled house. And I think
Yeah,
it could
I think
happen.
it's two.
Adds
I
a
think
little
it's two.
variety.
Alrighty. So, sci-fi original, come on, we need it to happen. Why don't you hit our eye location?
Ooh, this is a good one. So for our eye location, I feel like as a whole, we've kind of all possibly agreed on this one as well. But then again, just to guess, we have, what did Nick name it? Jack versus Oddfellow, the final carnival. I love that name. That's a good one.
It was either that or the final, like the curtain call or something like that.
Ooh, I like curtain call. That's fun. As some of you may know, and I know Nick, I think, has messaged before, or mentioned it before, excuse me. There was a certain little Easter egg hidden inside of, it was the El Artista house last year, yes? What
Yep,
was
at
it
the
again? I
closing
think,
night.
yeah, I think you saw it.
It
I
was
didn't
the
get to see it.
totems. The
It was
totems
the
were
totems.
carved.
Yes, thank you.
You had a bunch of wood shavings, and you had Oddfellow's logo on like Sergio's desk, and I think below that you had the Jack totem carved out.
Mhm.
So kind of like a little hint, wink, wink kind of thing for the last day closing night crowd.
That's what it was. Thank you for remembering that, because I wouldn't have. I think, and I'm a little biased because I do love Jack the Clown. I feel like, especially for an anniversary year, Jack the Clown is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, to have him at the event, he's one of the biggest icons we've had. He's my favorite icon. Since we've had the addition of Oddfellow in the last couple of years, I do feel like it added more to that lore, and there's more to invest in and dive into. And I do think it would be fun to see a rendition of kind of a Jack versus Oddfellow house. I think the Oddfellow house did really well before. I love that carnival style-esque house anyways. My thing, I do think this would be a great time to bring back my favorite 3D houses. It would work perfect for this. Jack versus... Come on now, with all the carnival stuff. Oh, it'd be fun. Really, really cool.
You could do 3D for the sci-fi as well.
You could do 3 for this. Hey, now we're getting somewhere. But yeah, especially with that little Easter egg we got. Maybe they were just throwing that in there to be cheeky, but I mean, I would kind of think it's a little hint for this year. You know, they got to give us a little something, and they usually like to. And I think either if we don't see it as a house, I could possibly seeing this idea being maybe our theming for the year, or even kind of a scare zone, or even a show experience would be cool. Back when Jack would have his kind of show for like Carnival and Carnage and stuff like that, it'd be really fun to bring something like that back, but then include Dr. Oddfellow as well.
Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer. I think this is your icon house. I know we kind of talked about that with Wicked Growth too, but there is not going to be an anniversary year without Jack the Clown. It just cannot happen. It will not happen. I will die on that hill. We haven't seen him since 30. You know, bringing him out and dusting him off for the anniversaries is enough. I don't think you need him every year or whatever, but I think that 5-year gap is when people start to really itch and be like, okay, you know what? I could use some Jack the Clown. And by including Oddfellow and really dusting off a old part of Jack the Clown lore, bringing it to full fruition and making it mean something was a really, really cool way of introducing / reintroducing us to a character that was just buried in Oddfellow lore that was kind of just an afterthought. He was sort of a name, and that was it. You didn't think twice about it. And now it's like a full-fledged character with a lot of backstory. He had a scare zone, had a house. He was the icon for the year, and they're on a crash course collision, obviously. So I'm hoping for, and we've stated this since we had the Oddfellow year, save it for 35, Jack versus Oddfellow. It's literally going to be Civil War. You're either Team Cap or Team Iron Man, and you have to pick a side, new versus old, and that's just what's going to happen in this house. And that's my maybe not so bold prediction, but I am hard pressed to think of something else that makes sense.
Are you Team Jack or Team Oddfellow?
I am team whoever has the Usher or Lady Luck, if they decide to involve either of those.
Oh, you think they're gonna bring people to the fight, huh?
I mean, you gotta come with your army. So I would say like Jack and the caretaker, the storyteller, the director, maybe the usher, and then
Just bring them all
the
back, honestly.
Odd fellow, you got him, sinister, surreal. Maybe Pumpkin Lord shows up. Maybe that's where you put Lady Luck. And obviously Chance is going to be with Jack, or maybe you have Chance have like a betrayal of Jack because she's kind of like that crazy
Ooh.
Harley Quinn. So like she's always looking out for herself, really. So maybe she's kind of Oddfellow's sidekick and he snatches his bitch.
Interesting take. I like it.
I don't know.
Now it's getting juicy.
Yeah, could be fun. Could be fun.
Could be fun, yeah.
But yeah, so I am putting, other than Stranger Things 5, this is like where I'm putting all my money in on.
Yeah, I think so too. I think these
in
are our
betting
top.
terms, this would be like minus 800.
All right, I don't know what that means, but maybe good.
No, but some people will. All
Okay.
right. Our final location J, and that is the Cat Lady of Crooked Lane. I think this is clearly, as of last year, the most ready to call up Scare Zone. Would it be weird if we had it for technically 3 consecutive years? Because we had, the poster in Slaughter Cinema 2, we had the Scare Zone at 34, and now a house at 35. Maybe. But I think it's ready. I think you keep that whole house they had intact. You use that as your facade. You put that thing out in front of one of the sprung tents. You let everybody walk in and shit. Maybe if you do the Wicked Growth 2, maybe you can do what my idea was for the Cat Lady of Crooked Lane and make this like a Christmas themed house. Make
Ooh,
it like
that would be fun.
The seasons have passed and this is kind of a new version. But, I think this is a little bit of a risk putting this on here. I'm a little torn. I don't necessarily, the more I've sat on it since the 34 has ended, the more I think maybe too soon and maybe this is a house for 36. But when we first did this guest map for 33, we were kind of in the same thought mind for Sweet Revenge. It was only 1 year difference. It was a Scare Zone 1 year and the next year was a house. So maybe this is when you get the call up. I think that character's pretty fleshed out more so than most Scare Zones are. It had the most thought put into it story wise, I think. And I think it's ready. I think that was a true test to see how is this going to be perceived. Are people going to enjoy it? Are they going to want to see it more? And man, if you ever walked through there and tried to go get to the Simpsons area when the Cat Lady stage show was going on, you had to pretty much push your way through a sea of people. So yeah. I think it's I think it's a smart guess on our end saying, 1 year to Scare Zone, next year gets the call up. It's I think this could be a monster hit.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we've seen before Scare Zones turning to houses, houses turning to Scare Zones. I was just looking it up because we had the school to the schoolhouse, and there's other ones that we've seen before. And I don't think it would be too soon, honestly. And I mean, you kind of want to keep that stamina going, like when they did the Major Suite Scare Zone, and then you had the house. I feel like that wasn't too far back to back, and I feel like people really liked it, and it still worked. And obviously, with the reception that Cat Lady got in previous year, I think that just all the set pieces and just detail that they put into that Scare Zone, I just feel like it's absolutely necessary before the hype dies down for it to do a house for it too.
Yeah, I think the call up of Scare Zone to house is a lot more palatable than having a house in back-to-back years. So I think that's why they might want to kind of do that at this point versus having, I think you wouldn't want to do the same house back-to-back years, but if it's a Scare Zone to house, I think that's a little bit different.
Yes.
So I would be very excited if this came. This would be a fun house to kind of go through and see what they can kind of flesh out from that story a little bit. I could see it kind of being like that Tooth Fairy sort of intro, where it reads the story to you as you walk through. You could use the same story imagery that we had in that little Central Park walkway as that overhead story being told to you. So no, I am very hopeful that this makes its way there.
Me too.
Alrighty. Well, do you have any thoughts on Cat Lady of Crooked Lane before we jump on out of here?
Nope, I'm here for Cat Lady Crooked Lane too, and I think it's a very good guess.
Alrighty. Well, that wraps up our guest map. Thank you for bearing with my my sickness and my lack of mental capacity tonight. I feel like I was pretty short-winded at times, but
no.
Ooh, fuck, there it is. Oh, yeah. So be sure to check our page. I'm not sure when the Spookeasy video for weapons will be out. I'm hoping for Sunday, but it really is just how much I can sit at my computer and edit while dealing with all this. And I got 3 photo shoots I got to work through and prep for and edit. So I'm kind of a little bit busy right now, but we'll have that coming out soon. And then I think our next episode, we will be doing a little rumor roundup, trying to catch you all up to speed on what people are talking about for this HHN35 season.
Mhm.
But until next time, this is Nick.
And this is Jamie.
Happy haunts.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Fear and Beer, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on whatever streaming platform you are listening to us on. You can find us on all of our socials at Fear and Beer Pod.